What was the name of your little lawn mowing company?
The Lawn Wranglers?
Welcome to episode 17, Wrangler Roundup. I am Larry O'Neill, and my co-host is...
My name is Riza Durbin.
And our special guest tonight is Steve Heiler. Steve has been a fixture in the running community here in Akron for 30 plus years. He is a Boston native.
I am.
He has been heavily involved in SARC over the past many years, 20, would you say, Steve?
It's been over 30 years.
Over 30 years in SARC. And we're just pleased to have him on the show tonight. He's a wealth of knowledge in the running community, and we are excited to hear his stories. So I'm going to start first, Steve. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and as far as like getting started in running, was it high school? I know we chatted a little bit earlier today, and you told me you were a big fan of the Boston Marathon growing up there in Boston.
Well, it was actually, my running actually goes back to watching ABC Wild World of Sports. And back then, Peter Snell, Jim Ryan, the big milers at that time, they were the runners from New Zealand that were just, formidable. And really, it actually predates Steve Prefontaine from Oregon. But I was so interested in it because, and I'd stay up late at night, like to have a live broadcast, and you just see these. And I was just so impressed with, really, at that time, distance running was a mile. And the other thing I remember from my youth is the 1960 Olympics in Rome, when Abebe Bikila won the marathon barefoot. And I remember sitting at home just so shocked by that. And I remember him, running over the cobblestone streets. Well, in 1963, Abebe came and with his running mate, Mama Waldy, came to Boston. And I thought, oh, this is great. My dad brought me to see the marathon. And back then, and Reezy, like this, there were only like 250 runners at that time, and I think 150 runners finished that day. It seemed bigger than that, but but the numbers are small. And then that's when it kind of exploded, like it was right in 64 and on, 65. But anyway, what happened was I went up to watch, and he in Abebe, first of all, he wasn't winning. We were standing on Heartbreak Hill, and secondly, he was wearing shoes, and I'm like, no. Abebe can't wear shoes. But anyway, he was wearing shoes. He ended up, I think, finished third or fourth, and then unfortunately he went on and won the Olympic marathon afterwards. And at that time, no one who won the Olympic marathon ever won the Boston Marathon, and it changed over the years. But back then it didn't happen. And the other thing I remember is that unfortunately, we lost Abebe in a car accident. He was actually disabled and later died from his injuries, and that was a shame. And Mama Waldy, who was almost as great a runner, he was a policeman, but he ended up getting arrested and actually spent a lot of years in jail over in Ethiopia. So, as a kid, I just, as these things you're interested in merged with politics and everything. Well, anyway, so we go on from that, and I just started running. And so to get ready for football in high school, I would go running, and I lived in a town called Situate. You'd run 3 miles to and I would run 3 miles to Harbor and back in the morning. Of course, people would stop. Do you need a ride? Because it was unusual. Mm-hmm. And back then I think I was running in U.S. Keds or something like that. Mm-hmm. And even running shoes, but you ran. And it just became so. I was always in shape for football. It was great. And I didn't want to play college football. I went to High Northern, but I was out running, and they needed bodies for the team. The coach says, "Hey, you saw me out running." He goes, "Why don't you come out and run for cross country?" And this one fella came in. His name's Craig Schroeder, who's we ended up becoming very lifelong friends. And it turns out we were on my first run there. He starts talking to me about this guy he runs with in Newington, Connecticut. He ran with a guy by the name of Bill Rogers. And Bill ever gets his act together, now keep in mind this is 1968. If he ever gets his act together, he's going to be a really good runner. Well, I guess he is, And of course, and Bill, as everybody knows, had some things he had to work out. But once he did, my oh my, and
incredible story. Yeah.
Incredible story, and it just set running on his ear, and so running on its ears, and then everything exploded. Of course, I'm running, a couple of years after Catherine Switzer ran in Boston, and all of a sudden women could run, and pretty soon running just kind of explodes, and it's a wonderful thing, And the thing is that what was missing from running all the time was was women running, and now you've got more women running than men, and it's just been great for the sport, and I love it. And actually, as we go on through my history here, I just started running. I ran a couple of years in college, and then got away from it, and then get back into it, and actually got pretty good at it. Actually, I was running sub 40-minute 10Ks, and I actually ran a half marathon at the Dayton Quarter River Classic when that was a big race. I actually ran that just over 90 minutes, and so I was having some pretty good success. And again, for a guy who was working full time, a couple of kids, and then Mary, my wife, the woman I'm related to by marriage, she decided she's going to take up running, and as Reza can tell you, she's become formidable. I mean, we're now both in our 70s, and she does great. In fact, she just got through setting the record at the Avenue of the Giants for women over 70. And so, and she missed Boston by 1 minute because she was being a lady and stopped at the porta potty 23. And so, but she's going to run area, and and if she makes it,
she's running area this year.
She's going to run area, and if she makes it, great. And if she doesn't, that's okay too.
Good for her.
But we've run Boston before, and I remember as a kid watching the TV and seeing those poor souls at 8 o'clock at night coming in, and it was historic. And again, they weren't very, but all the TV stations down there covering. I'm thinking, maybe someday I can do that. And then all of a sudden, I just started doing it. My brother actually did it before I did, and we ran as and the thing, cute story. In the early days, bandits were always welcome. And actually, Dave McGilvery, who is the race director for Boston, actually his first Boston, he ran as a bandit because he wasn't old enough. And so, and there was this one guy, and he's been out there every year, and he dresses up as Groucho, and he used to sell numbers back of the pack. He was raising money for, actually I think for the American Heart Association or something like that. Well, anyway, and he's always back there. He's got a Groucho mustache, a coat, and all this stuff. Well, anyway, a couple of years ago, you remember we brought in Dave McGilvery into the Southern Athletic Running Club meeting, and I was having lunch. I think it was Joey Phillips, me, and Dave were sitting there, and he goes, and he says, yeah, I said, because Dave had just come out of cardiac care, and so McGilvery says, yeah, he says, you're never going to guess who my doctor is. I said, who's your doctor? He goes, well, this fella comes in, he goes, you don't recognize me. He goes, but I'm Groucho. So his cardiologist was Groucho, the guy that it's always in the back of the pack. And so cute stories, but there's so many stories. And of course now I think, kind of moved away from the bandits, and I think it's more, there's so many runners, and it's so big now that, and I know I don't want to take anybody's space, things of that nature. So the sport has changed, but it's changed for the better. And there's so many people running now, and like yourself, I mean, with what you're doing with the lawn wranglers and Reza, your running streak and things like that. This is just, it's fantastic. It's just so exciting to see, and you're out there like Mary at the Cleveland Marathon got her chips from you, her potato chips. Larry, you were out there cheering me on last year at the, I think it was at the 10K.
10K, yeah.
The 10K, you were out there, hey, Steve, what do you, and it's just those little things, and that's actually the part of the running that I really like, and I've really kind of morphed into, and that's, putting on races. I think I've put on over 50 races. I've been a race director over 50 times. New Year's Eve race, the Sark New Year's Eve race out in Stowe. That's been going on for 20 years. We started that up with, I think, when we got kicked out of Akron because of first night. So there was John Fish, myself, and Luann Stockton, and we kind of spearheaded. We headed out to Stowe. Leanne Schaefer was the mayor. She said, yeah, bring it on out here, and we got so much support from the council and city, and we never left it, so that's where we've been for 20 years. It was
that race was originally downtown Akron.
That was originally downtown Akron, yeah. And it was just, we started out the chapel, yeah, and so, but we didn't want it to die, and it's good. And I retired last year as a racer. I'm still going to help out, so I'm not sure who's taking it over. It'll happen, but we donate money to Bulldog Bags, which helps, fights hunger, in Stowe Youth, and we also did donations to the food bank and to other entities, and we're just we've done a lot of good things through SARC, and it's a different time now with SARC too, because you mentioned Southern Athletic Club, we kind of morphed into now just putting on races. Obviously my favorite race is the New Year's Eve race, but we have Shamrock. We brought the Jim Klett back after COVID here. We've got Buckeye. So we've got our races that we do. But there's so many running groups now. You've got yours. The people who meet online. There's people who can just meet and stuff. So the role of a club has really changed. It's more like okay, you kind of specialize in something. And right now we're specializing in putting on some really good races. Like today was the Talmadge 5K, and Josh Ritchie, took that over. So, there's so many good things happening. So, but the bottom line is I love running. I love being involved in it. And I just think, we just got to keep this thing going and keep it positive. I love seeing the Akron Marathon, their races. It's terrific, absolutely terrific.
Oh yeah, that's talking about races. The culture exploding in Akron. That's completely taken off over the past 15 years. It doesn't recognize that we're in here, but
I'm gonna take some water.
Yes.
Here
Take
we
a
go.
break.
we can fix that up and edit.
I'm sure you will.
So Riza, did you want to cover that next question? I know Steve kind of talked about it.
Should we just do was there a time you took a break from running?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was funny. The time happened actually here. I really got away from it. We lived in the Lima area because that's where I went to school at High Northern, and then we actually settled in Columbus Grove. We actually started a race in Columbus Grove that still exists today. It's over 40 years, and and we modeled it after the Falmouth Road Race, which starts and ends at a bar. So and of course that gives it. And then we did that one, and then I went to Wapakoneta and I did did some races there. Enjoyed doing that, but then I came to and I ran a bank in fortunate enough, very young age. I think it was 29. I became CEO of a bank, and a very wonderful place to live. Wapak's great, and then went to Marietta, took over a troubled bank there, and good people, but it just didn't seem to work. So I was there for a year and a half, and it took my time. So I really got away from running there. But I came up here and decided, well, I'm going to start running again, and it took me a while to get back into it. I got away for a few years. But meanwhile, Mary was just tearing up the roads and doing what the boss was. I like to call her the boss. She was doing really well, and eventually I started getting back into it, kind of coming in and coming out. But lately, over the last 9 years, I've really been devoted to trying to get back and get healthy and adopt a healthy lifestyle. And as and I talked, I had a stroke in May of 2014. And that's an eye opener, and you hear that, from a lot of folks, okay, what changed? Well, I had a stroke. And so since that time, I'm down 20 pounds, and I'm taking my medicine. I'm eating somewhat healthier. But I have to tell you, folks, I am addicted to Oreos. As a matter of fact, I ran a trail race out in Sedona at the end of March, and I fell and I broke my ribs. And you got to understand, when I'm on the trails, I'm 100% outside my comfort zone, which is why I'm doing it, because that's the next thing. I just love it because time doesn't matter. I mean, you're out in the trees. It's just beautiful. It's just like today, Mary and I went on a hike. I did some biking this morning. I ran this morning, and then we went out and we did 6 miles. Did 6 miles in that CVNP All-In Challenge, and it was just, and the weather and the trail, and it's just so gorgeous. And we live here, and it's available to all of us. And and quite frankly, anybody watching this, if you haven't been out on the trails, and you live here, that's a sin. I mean, you can correct that. Go out and just hike on the start on the bike path, start the tow path, whatever, and then start working up to the trails. Well, anyway, I'm in Sedona, and I fell at 8 points. I think it was 8.7 miles. So I still had 3.3 miles to go, and I fell, and at the turnaround, this is a true story, I had my hydration vest on. They gave me some peanut M&Ms and the little bags. So I put them in my pocket there, I had my iPhone there. I had my water over here, and so when I fell, I landed, fortunately, the water and my iPhone, and the peanut M&Ms actually cushioned the fall. But I knew when I fell, I knew I was hurt, and anyway, the first thing I thought, okay, Stevie, get up. So I get up, and then I realized I still have a little over 3 miles to get into the finish line. The Red Cross isn't coming. You got to get up. You got to move. And so I love the Grateful Dead, which is the shirt, and I just
Grateful Runner.
Grateful Runner, yeah. So I love it. So I said, well, play Dead. So I put the phone on the Grateful Dead, had that playing. Got lost in my thoughts, hiked, and actually ran the last half mile, only to find out a day and a half later that I had cracked ribs.
Man.
And so that was, a couple of months ago. So I'm coming back from that. But I guess the thing that, I guess one of the message I want to deliver tonight, and that is the fact that, it doesn't matter how old you are. You got to keep moving, and if you keep moving, it's the old saying, use it or lose it. And, so anybody watching this, and the value of the lawn wranglers and the value of SARC and the value of the races and things, when you start a race, you're on the starting line with everybody else, no matter what wave you're in or anything else. You're on the start. And once you cross that starting line, you count. And so whether you're the first person or the last person, you count, and it matters. And it, and so if you get the cards, you get on the starting line, and then you have the will to finish. When you get done and you get that medal or you get the recognition, if there's no medal, it doesn't matter. The medals don't even matter to me anymore. It's when you get done, just the euphoria of, and the fellowship, the running community, they take you in, Paula Balls and people like me, just, we're slower now, but so what? We're there,
Finished.
we see your smiling face, we got you out there, and there's people, like John Adams and other folks. It's great to see them. There's always somebody out there with a smile, the volunteers and things of that nature. And you feel so good. And the thing is, if you stay at it, all of a sudden you start to get a little bit better. And you get a little bit better. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, I can't believe how many people I started in running. And, and when we start out in the race, all of a sudden they become a blur in the distance and it makes me happy, because you see them and they, and one of them is, again, it's my wife. She started when she was 28 and trying to lose a little weight from, pregnancies, things of that nature. And the next thing you know, she's running, she's really running well. But it isn't just her story, it's a lot of stories. Debbie Harding, I see, Debbie Harding's always been a really good runner, but to see her, bring herself along and the dedication she has. And again, and everybody has injuries, like I've got a thing going up my hamstring right now. You got a bone in your leg too, but so you just get over it, but you just keep moving. And if you keep moving, it's great. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, we always like to say movement is medicine.
Well said.
Yeah, you definitely have to keep moving. And speaking of moving, you've moved a lot in the last 30 plus years with the running community. So we want to go back to SARC because I think that's a fascinating story because that's really the first local running club here in Akron that I know of. And
it was.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but can you talk a little bit about the beginning of SARC and what it was like in those days, just starting out?
Well, I wasn't here for the beginning. I came later, but but the stories are great. And of course, a lot of those folks are gone, but they were. I think Steve Goodale's still around. I know he was involved. Obviously, Jim Klett. And again, thinking about Jim Klett selling shoes out of the back of his car. And the thing is that Klett he didn't really like women running in the races. But he's still a great guy. But the thing, and it's actually his daughter was helping him. Like his daughter would be like the register. Linda, who now is who's been an accountant for years and a dear friend of mine. And she's still supports SARC and things. But the reality is though is that it was representative of its time, and then eventually that softened up and that type of thing, and then all of a sudden
Do you have a year for SARC when it started?
I want to say it was like 1972 possibly.
Wow.
I think it goes back that far. I think it's and I think they did the original Akron Marathon and just years ago. And
was there an Akron Marathon before they?
Yeah, there was. In fact, it was funny. I actually drove a fellow over from. We lived on the west side of state. I actually drove a fellow over to run in the race and waited for him, until he finished, and then brought him back. So it was, and again, it was different. It was, and again, back then, the big names in running really came to town. It just there were a lot of big names at those times. Matter of fact, in a couple of days I'll be seeing one of them. A fellow by the name of Randy Thomas, really great guy. Used to train with Bill Rogers and. Used to be the 20K American 20K champion, stuff like that. Wow. Back then, he's the record holder for the Cape Cod Marathon, stuff like that. But we had those people here in Akron, and it was Jim Klett, and of course now he's gone, and I think Ralph.
When did Jim Klett pass away?
I'm not sure. Ralph Lowry is still around though. Ralph lives in Stowe, and I think Ralph Thompson is still running. I think Ralph was involved back in the early days, and. There's just a lot of,
Was SARC involved with the first Akron Marathon?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's actually the story that I heard, and then like I say, then but SARC, God, then it went to a next evolution, and Jim Chaney was involved in SARC.
He talked a lot about SARC.
He did a wonderful job. John Fish, who was down in Cincinnati now, but John Fish was, he was great. He was passionate about it. And Luann Stockton has been the treasurer forever. And she doesn't look great. She looks great. But she's been very dedicated. So Mickey Rismick, who has North Coast sports and things. I mean, Mickey was involved, for a lot of years, and really, and so it's just and of course Josh Ritchie and then I got and I was kind of helping out and that type of thing, and then next thing all of a sudden I'm the president for a while, and I loved it. I really did. And I loved being part of it, and loved the people I met. I remember Dave Cooper from Talmadge was very involved for the longest time. He's a really good guy, and did a great job, and put on a bunch of races. So it's just and again, but it's the whole running community. I think that's the thing. And as it's evolving. The whole running community is involved in it. It's been a great thing. It really has. It's just and the best part is that through the month of June, month of July, month of September, you'll find a race someplace.
Yes.
All the
Yeah.
races, yep.
Shameless plug, June 17th, North Hill 5K. You can still register up until race day.
I spent 24 years working on North Hill, and I loved it. I loved going. You know what? I never felt like I was going to work, and I love the people in North Hill. I know.
Where at, Steve? Where
I was the president of North Akron Savings Bank for 24
okay,
years.
great. They're one of our sponsors. They're the People's Bank now.
People's Bank now.
Yeah.
And People's, and actually I arranged the sale to People's, and again I knew People's from my time in Marietta. Great people, great bank, good folks, very community minded, but we just weren't big enough to compete in.
Oh yeah.
And I can tell you, with what's happened in the markets business thing, what's happened in the markets here over the last couple of weeks, I'm really glad I'm not in banking anymore. I was
scary.
But having said it, no, good luck with your race. And again, I'm always someplace else, and I so bad want to run that place, but another time. I think it's. I love seeing that on North Hill.
Thanks.
Do.
Yeah. Tom Ginner, I'm wearing his shirt. We had the Kenmore Rock Me on the Water 7K. He had the idea of doing a neighborhood-centric series, not the Akron Marathon, obviously,
No.
smaller races, but just getting people out in their own community running. And I love it because I'm an Akron guy, I'm a North Hill guy. And we met at the West Akron Bookdole 5K 6 years ago, and we talked about that idea, and that's what inspired me to do this. So, but going back to SARC, can you talk to us a little bit about SARC races, traditional? I know you mentioned a couple of them before, but some of the traditional races that SARC has put on that have been a mainstay in the community.
Well, Buckeye has been a great race, and unfortunately, COVID really played havoc. Obviously with all of us, and it's played havoc with volunteers. It played havoc with with so many things. But Buckeye, is back. We've got again the Jim Klett race coming up. I think we've got that's
Jim Klett is in Monroe Falls. Is that the
well?
one?
It was, but actually, I think it's going to be down here at the. It's going to be down here at the Mussel Store.
Oh, cool.
So they're going to be down that way. It's going to be it's going to be on the trail.
On the trail or towpath?
On the right there at the store, and the waterfalls, and it'll take off right there.
Okay.
And we used to have a race down there before, so that'll be good. And then of course we've got again, like I say, we've got the Buckeye, we've got Shamrock, and Shamrock is 15K and 5K, and we've had that every March. And of course, then we've got the New Year's Eve race, and we also have the and we've pared it down, but we also have the running series in August, where the high school cross country team.
Is that the Heidelman?
The Heidelman series,
Yeah.
very good, yeah. So they can come out and run there. So it's and I think
Good year.
and again, it's been tough. It's been tough again because running has changed, and again the dynamics of COVID changed things. So we've had trouble, actually getting to meet the people who are willing to help at the races. And so if that's the case, you know what? If that's what we've got races. That's a good thing. You continue the tradition. So so we'll see what happens. We'll keep batting at it.
Yeah, you have to. Absolutely.
Okay, I think I know the answer to this, but is there a particular SARC race that you are most fond of?
Well, I have to tell you, I remember we went to a wedding in Orlando. This is about 10 years ago. We went to a wedding in Orlando, and that was on December 30th. And so, again, dear friend, his daughter, we had to be there. But on the earliest flight out of Orlando, Mary and I were on that flight, and we were up here so I could help with the. And again, and Paul Organ, God love him, he was the race director and I was a coach race director. But I was so glad that I was able to get back and show up. And I have never run that race, and so I'm hoping that this year I can run the New Year's Eve race. So because a race director cannot run his own race.
Right.
I mean, you just can't. I know race directors have it, and that sometimes has been actually not a very good thing. So so you've got to be in charge, and there's always something, as you know. There's always something that, oh my God, and you're the guy that's got to fix it, or you're the person, somebody's got to fix it. And so buck stops with the race director, and so you got to be in charge. And like this year in Stowe, we had a intersection that somebody didn't show up, so I drove out there with my car and took over that intersection, and and everything was fine. We've got the police up. The police in Stowe have been fantastic. The city's been fantastic. I mean, they really, Linda Narstedt, the city's been, she embraces it. And she's a good runner herself. So it's good to have the support, and it's great for the community. It really is. Love it.
How many years was it in Akron before it transitioned to Stowe?
I don't remember. I really don't remember now. It's so long ago. It's over 20 years ago, and it was, and we actually ended up in Stowe as a mistake. It was a miscommunication. So, and actually right before we started, I was asked, hey, can you bring the race back? And I said, well, no, we're out in Stowe. There's not enough time. We're out in Stowe.
Akron asked if you could bring it back down.
Yeah, they did.
Wow.
We got asked, and again, it was just a mistake. And so, and again, and Akron's been so supportive. But you know what? It was time for us to go to Stowe, and Akron's. I mean, this void's been filled by the Akron Road Race Series, and actually the first year we started in Stowe, that was the first year of the Akron Marathon, and it's great. It's just there's plenty for everybody. Not a problem.
What do you see? I know we talked about the evolution of running and how it's changed so much. Do you have a future vision for SARC moving forward, or are you content with the races you have on the calendar? Do you see maybe more races coming up, or?
Well, I think Doug Powley has really stepped up to the plate and is really trying to get things going again, and I really appreciate it. Again, at my age, I think I really, I'm stepping back, but Josh Ritchie's involved, and
Josh, great guy.
Josh, you can't find a person. Matter of fact, honestly, God, my wife loves Josh. In fact, everybody loves Josh. He's just a good person, and very devout. And he's a man of faith. He's a good guy, and so it'll be fine. And there are plenty of people in the background. So my guess is that the vision of SARC right now will be making sure we pull the races off, pull them off safely. I mean, Tracy Finn, she was our president for the last 3 or 4 years, and she really did a great job. I mean, she really did. Tracy, in addition to being a great trail runner, is an excellent leader. I mean, she really is. So it's just good people, and gets people enthusiastic. And one of those people that, in fact, it was funny. I think one of the Boston Marathons, she actually stayed at my brother's house. Now, my brother and I we were in England, but my younger brother actually chauffeured her around, and she met actually my brother's wife. They got to be buddies and stuff like that. And
Your younger brother's still in Boston?
My younger brother and my older brother both still in Boston. And my younger brother, he ran cross country in high school, but he hated it. So he became a musician, and a really good one. He still plays in the Boston area. Actually, he has a little bit of following. And then my older brother, he's been running forever. In fact, his wife doesn't like it so much because sometimes he just disappears, but he's just, she goes, honey, where'd you go? He goes, well, I was out running. She goes, it's blazingly hot. I go, yeah, no, it's no problem. Then my brother will call me on the phone. He goes, yeah, it's no problem. He goes, but I actually ran out of water. And he goes, I really couldn't find any. He goes, and really, I thought I was going to collapse from the heat. But, he struck, but hey, but I'm fine. So anyway, just we keep the line going. But no, he's and of course, and the thing is the summer, let me back up. My brother's running 35 Boston marathons. But he's never qualified once. he's always, because he worked for, the city or.
So the charity,
No, well, no, into charity. He's been getting those numbers that they give out because he worked for the state at the time. So he would get numbers, because they have, celebrity numbers, whatever, or, numbers for people who work for the state. And so somebody would say, hey, the same guy would say, hey, Phil, you want a number? Sure. And so, but he did pretty well. And the thing was, is that he also, though, he was one of those guys that he's always been elevating other runners. Like he was very active in the start of Back on My Feet in Boston, the Boston chapter, running with homeless and stuff like that. And, Brad's a hell of a guy. I mean, he was out there like early in the morning and, helping folks that, and of course we have that here with, with
Running to Be Well. That came to mind when you said that. So their organization is called Back on My Feet?
Yeah, Back on My Feet. It was a national organization. And,
wow.
And again, actually Back on My Feet.
And your brother was heavily involved?
He was involved in the Boston chapter, and
cool.
It really was. And actually met a lady there that he ran that they become best friends, and she actually moved on to a place called the Pine Street Inn in Boston, which actually does stuff specifically for the homeless. And so, and she's an amazing woman and a great runner. But getting to Keith and back and on the
Run
to Be Well. I mean, you talk about. I mean, he's done some amazing work himself, and the folks that are in that program are just terrific. You'll have in the race. I love it when they come to the New Year's race. And when they run on me. I love having them, and they're always positive. They're always. Keith, he's always got something, activate happy,
Activate Happy, yeah.
It's great stuff. It is. It's the running community. And that type of stuff, the running community really at its best. Elevating others. I love it.
Yes, and that goes back to that, movement is medicine, and he's really, I've seen Keith firsthand, and he's changed people's lives through running and through his force of personality, just getting people out and moving. And yeah, it's, and as you said earlier, just he's one of the many facets of this running community that makes this place
He's
special.
The kind of guy you say, how you doing? Well, I'm excellent, but I'm improving.
Yeah, that's definitely a Keith line. Definitely.
Okay, so do you have any running highlights in your career?
Oh, I think we all have running highlights in our career. I think one of my first favorites was my first cross-country race at Ohio Northern. Again, keep in mind, I was just out running, and the coach asked me to go run because they needed bodies in the team, so they could have a team. And so I ran for 2 years. And so my first race, I want to say we ran in Defiance, Ohio, Defiance College at the time, and I guess now Defiance University, but running Defiance, and running through like cornfield, and I got lost. Legitimately got lost. And so, and all of a sudden I'm running with the leaders, and I still finished last. It was great. And the thing was, though, I was particularly proud of the fact that I ran at about 7 minutes and 15 seconds a mile. Now, that gets you nothing in college, but, in road races now and stuff like that, And so I had a hard time getting perspective. My next race I ran in was down at Cedarville College, and it was a hilly course. I remember that on the campus. And we ran at Cedarville the next race. And and in that one, I came in just about 7 minutes a mile. Again, finished last, get you nothing. But I thought, you know what? So anyway, I started running with my buddy Craig Schroeder. He started pairing up with me, and we'd do the group runs. And and again, like anything else, you start running 10 miles a day. You're going to get better. And,
miles matter.
And then they do. Miles matter, and there's no such thing in my mind as junk miles. And the thing, miles and miles, time on your feet. And then we would start working on speed work and stuff like that. Well, the next thing I knew, I started getting better. And then all of a sudden, I didn't place, but I didn't finish last. And I remember the exhilaration of not finishing last. And I remember the pride I had at our banquet when I got a junior varsity letter, which is fine. That's what I deserved. But then the next year, all of a sudden, I'm the third guy on the team. And and not only that, at that time, I'd worked hard over the summer. I deserved to be the third guy on the team. And it was like, okay, and I feel pretty good about it. I did okay, and I actually placed on the race. But actually, the race, my sophomore year, that was my most memorable race. I met my wife in college, and actually it was the freshman welcome dance, and I was standing with a guy. His name was Rick Redmond, who runs a recreation bowling center up in Lorraine, even to this day. and I'd only known him for a day, and I saw this girl dancing, and she had burgundy shorts on, she had a sweater on, and she had really wearing saddle shoes and knee-high socks, that type of thing. And she looked over, and I saw her dance with this guy, and I looked at my buddy and I said, "You see that girl over there? She's about to trade up." And so all of a sudden, she looked over and smiled, and Mr. Confident, Mr. Never Met a Stranger, all of a sudden I was going, ha, 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 and I ran out of the room. Well, I was telling the story to a group of people probably about 15 years ago. There's like 400 people in the room. It's a banking conference, and so anyway, all of a sudden my wife looks up and she goes, "I don't remember that." And I said, put everybody on hold. I looked at her, I said, "Honey, you were smiling at me." She goes, "I wasn't smiling at you." So it just shows you my truth and your truth or whatever. Everybody sees things differently.
Perception. Right?
Perception, that's exactly right. And actually that kind of ties into my running because my perception of running at that time, I wasn't very good. Well, it turns out it's just a matter of where you are at that time. The reality was I wasn't bad. Well, sophomore year, I'm running in this one race and I see this, and Mary's out watching me, and so she's there, and there's this guy from actually Rain, and he went on, and he was a year above us, and he's talking to Mary. And I'm like, "What?" And so, and I know, he's moving on my babe. And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna fix this. And so I took off, and I'm actually leading the race. And I'm thinking, I can do this, that type of thing. And the coach is like, "Slow down." I go, "Oh no, I'm getting done. Nobody's gonna talk to my girl." So all of a sudden, all of a sudden I learned a hard lesson. It's a 4-mile race at about mile 3. All of a sudden, first person past you, next person past you. Next thing you know, you're gasping for air, that type of thing. But by God, as soon as the race was over, I went over. I don't know, "Hi, how you doing?" "Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good." And so, but I remember the effort of that day though, and I remember the effort I put forth. And I thought, you know what? It actually was my best time in college. I was running sub 6-minute miles. I think I was about 5:30 a mile, and so. Someplace in there. So
that is moving. Yeah,
it was moving. But again, it doesn't get you anything necessarily in college, but it was improvement.
But yeah, and that's the thing about running. I think we all obviously we're very aware of people around us. You're in a race, you're competing, but I think the true beauty of running, and it doesn't matter how old you get, you're always competing with yourself.
That's the point. It's what are your goals that day? And anymore, my goals are to show up and to finish. And to enjoy the experience, to enjoy the experience from the starting line to the finish line. And if I've done that, it's been a great day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads to our next question. And you were talking about this before the interview. Your running goals for the upcoming season. You've got quite a few.
Yeah. Well, one of my goals for the year is I want to run 42 races. I don't care how fast I run. I just want to run 42 races. It forces me to stay out there, stay active.
How many do you have so far this year?
I think I've knocked off about 23.
Oh, wow.
22,
wow.
23. And that doesn't include the full-on Cuyahoga Valley National Park races, which or hiking rather. And and again, Vince Rusci and Jim Christ, I mean, they do a great job with Western Reserve Racing. I mean, they just do a great job. And so this is part of it, and I enjoy doing that. So I've got that going on, but I'm also doing the Burning River Marathon with my brother Phil and an ultra runner from a friend of ours from Cincinnati, Connie Kalita, and Connie and I are dear friends. She actually completed the 100-miler last year, and she was so excited. She's 5 attempts to compete the Burning River 100, and last year she did it. And I actually was out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was actually out at the Hunt Farm at the Lays there. And all of a sudden she goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm just out here to cheer you in." And she came in and she actually did fairly well. I also was out. I wanted to see Mike Pavlik, and I just
Dr. Mike.
I love Dr. Mike. Both him and his brother Tim, good people, good men.
People. Yep.
And I got an amazing shot of the two of them. Actually, at I think about 2 o'clock in the morning, coming across State Road.
He did very well.
He did very, very well, and actually, I ended up catching 1 or 2 people in front of him. I said, "Yeah." I said, "I think you're about a minute or 2 minutes behind the guy ahead of you." And all of a sudden, him and Mike and Tim looked at each other and go, And then they went shopping,
They
shop for
reeled
somebody
him
else.
in, yeah.
They reeled him in. It's a good story.
So who's on your team? You're on the 4-person team, so it's you,
No.
No, I'm just
He's
running the
doing
marathon.
marathon.
They
Oh,
have-
you're doing the marathon.
Just
You're
doing
not,
the marathon.
because they're not
This is
doing the
new.
4-person.
There's no more
That's right,
4-person.
that's right.
Yep.
I forgot.
No.
Okay.
And again, this is outside my comfort zone, but what I'm doing is I'm doing the, Reese, this, I'm doing the challenge, and then, to hike the hiking, and then all of my training, over the next few weeks is, beginning in about 2 weeks, all of my training is actually gonna be on the course. So I figure the way I get through that is I have to know the course, I have to figure out how many miles, they're giving you 14 hours, but obviously, I don't wanna take 14 hours, I wanna do something, so you have to push yourself a little bit,
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Running the Sahara, if any of you have ever seen that movie Running the Sahara, but if you ever get a chance, watch it, it's these 3 gentlemen go across the Sahara Desert, and you couldn't do it now because of the political unrest, but 10 years ago, these guys, and Matt Damon was one of the wrote the film, Charlie Angle, and but they ran across actually across Libya and across all the way to the pyramids, and finally to the Red Sea, and just so they could run the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
Ran right across Africa through the sand and all that stuff. So if you see that, and the thing was that there was the only timeline you have is the one you put in yourself, and so they said, okay, we got to do this in this amount of time. So I think that's how I'm looking at Burning River. I don't want to take the 14 hours, something less than that is what I'm after. So that's what I'm training for.
And you guys the marathoners will start at Oak Hill, is that? where
We
you-
start at Oak Hill, and we'll 6:30 in the morning, I think, or something like that. It's going to be early in the morning. They'll bus us out there, and then they'll let us go. And of course, you've all run out in Oak Hill. God, is that beautiful? What? I mean, that's like, hey, we'd like to start in heaven, sure. Of course, it kind of reminds me of that Kenny Chesney song. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go now. And so, but in this case, no, I want to go. To me, Oak Hill is just. It's just so beautiful up there, really.
beautiful.
In that line of trees and
Yes,
around
it
the
is.
lake, and just
Very nice there.
it's going to be great. And you get down on the towpath, and then you wind around. You're familiar with it, and both of you, and then you get up into the trail, and eventually wind your way over to the lake, and then over through the ledges, and it's just beautiful. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Does the marathon this year, or you'll finish at Silver Springs?
Yes.
Silver Springs, yeah.
Yeah.
Finished it.
Okay, I got you. So you start at Oak Hill, and then you'll run that up through the ledges and then you finish on the bike and hike up into Silver Springs.
Yes.
You got it. And-
Part
Which
of-
that is not paradise in the blazing sun. Hopefully you won't.
No, that actually,
No.
that's why, I figure that last 5 miles is why we all want to be good people, because that's probably what hell's like. And so I think, you want to live in the, but no, with all seriousness though, I think that, I think it's going to be a great experience. I think I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun, and
We'll look for you out there. We'll be cheering you on. I know
Yes,
Reese is
I
on a
will.
relay
I will
team.
be there,
I'm on a relay team.
With my cowbell.
but, well, and the thing is, Reese, you've always been a big help, and, when I ran, for 5 years, I ran the halfway station, you were always there. And I really appreciate it, and of course, the runners really appreciate it.
Reese is, I met Reese. She was helping the day before the Burning River. I went to look at my exchange zone, and she was there with Paul, and they were
Marking the course.
and she's just
Paul does a great
always
job.
helping. Paul, the work he does for that.
Paul Remack,
Yeah.
great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, just the effort.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of races, what is your favorite part of race directing?
My favorite part is seeing the smiles. I mean, when you see, I love seeing happy people. I love seeing other people do well. That's, I think anybody who knows me knows, I try really hard to make sure that, people are happy. Like when you're putting something on, they come in there, and you always have, and I've only had 3 or 4 instances where I actually had complaints at New Year's. Everybody else just seems to be just happy, because it's, and actually now that, races, now that race results move faster and stuff, really people can come in, they can race and they can leave, but I just think seeing people smile and one of the things, and I would say that this is probably one of the happiest parts of that race. There was a friend of mine, he was severely overweight, and I was actually in a service club with him. He was severely overweight, and then he decided that he wanted to get ready for New Year's Eve race. And he showed up, I think he was 30 pounds lighter, and maybe 40 pounds lighter, and he ran like 34 minutes, and that's a tough course.
Yes,
And he ran like 34 minutes, and he came in, and a smile on his face. Now, he unfortunately hasn't maintained it, but But in that moment, though, when he came across, and we, he was just so excited, and exchanging a hug, and that type of thing. I mean, that's the reward of a race director, seeing people smile and seeing them happy, and seeing folks achieve goals, and again, that brings the running community together. It's just, and what Ed Stutter does. I mean, his race. I mean,
4-leaf.
Is that special or what? I mean,
is.
What a great guy.
It's a shame that this will be the last year for. I know we had him on. He was the last episode, but this is going to be the last year.
Yeah, but you know what? It's everything has its time and that type of thing. And the thing is, the effort he's put into that, the people he's made happy, the people he made smile, and folks that And the thing is, what what race directors know, but they don't always see. Just like a teacher, you don't get to always see you don't get to see the finished product sometimes. But sometimes that race that you're at, that you're doing. All of a sudden, that's the starting point where that likes the match that all of a sudden that person becomes a really athlete.
Yes.
And actually we're all athletes, like Dr. Shantz used to say, we're all athletes. Some of us are in training and some of us aren't.
Yep. I know that there's some people who, like the Jeep Davis, like there's certain races that people hold dear to them because it was that first race that got them into the sport and got them into the community. And that, like you said, that holds that place there in their memory, and it's something that's near and dear to them. So you never know. As a race director, like you said, you don't know what the finished product's going to be. I think also, it's almost like you're putting on a wedding or some type of ceremony. Like you're happy when it all comes together, and you see all those smiles, and you know that you've had a hand in helping to orchestrate all that. And
you know what? In the end, really, what it's all about. You worry about all this and all this, but in the end, the only thing you have to worry about is safety. Because like anything, if you haven't got safety, you got nothing. So if you've got safety, and everybody's secure, then really all you have to do as a race director is say, there's a starting line, go. And actually that race I did in Sedona, the trail race, which again, running trails 100% outside of it. But what was great about that was the race director just got up there and she goes, okay, everybody, okay, those of you that are doing the 38K, okay, go ahead and go. And everybody takes up, and then like, okay, 15 minutes later, okay, all of you doing the 17K, you ready? Okay, you go right ahead, go ahead, take off. So you take off, and the most amazing thing about that was, it was probably the most beautiful start of a race. I know you've seen fireworks at the start of a race. This one had hot air balloons. Now they weren't part of the race; they just happened to be there. And so all of a sudden you see these 3 hot air balloons going. That's great. And all of a sudden, here come 3 more that have nothing to do with these other 3, and they come across, and then you've got these red rocks in the background and stuff, and you're just thinking, is this a great day to be alive or what? And it's just, it was just and it was the perfect running temperature and that type of thing. But again, you're out on the trails, you're out with nature, that type of thing, and it's discovery of something. And again, I would say to anybody who happens to be seeing this, if you haven't been on the trails in the valley, go, and once you go, you're going to get hooked. And quite frankly, if you're someone who wants to lose weight or something like that, just walk. Just go out and walk and enjoy it. And nobody cares how fast you are. Just go out and just take in the sounds and And I got to tell you, when I broke my ribs earlier in the year here, I don't do drugs, I don't drink, but I love Oreos, and I'm an Oreo addict. And I tell you, I was.
I'll have those Oreos on your Burning River full marathon.
That's my girl right there.
She'll have them too.
But seriously, but I got away from them, and but I had about 2 weeks of just seriously drowning my sorrows in milk and Oreos, and then all of a sudden I said, wait, what am I doing here? And then I just decided you got to fight back, and so I did a 10-mile with the ribs, and then and again a lot of it was mostly walking and stuff. But you have to keep, like I said, you have to keep moving. Mm-hmm. Then I started lifting lighter weights, things of that nature, and listening to the doctor and taking advice and stuff. And eventually now I think about another couple of weeks I'm going to be back exactly where I was, and I'm looking forward to it.
And you're going to tackle that Burning River Marathon.
I'm going to have
definitely.
fun.
Yeah, that's the main thing. As long as you're having fun, right? We are almost to the rapid fire roundup, Riza. So, are you familiar with the rapid fire roundup?
I am not.
Okay, so rapid fire roundup is first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
These are just a variety of questions that deal with running and running.
Sure.
So Riza's got the first one.
Okay, so what are your go-to shoes?
Brooks Ghost 14s.
Mine too, Steve. What is your favorite pre-race meal?
Oreos. No.
I was thinking that.
I'm not that scientific. I think Gatorade and fruit punch Gatorade and a banana and some peanut butter on toast.
Music or no music? And what are the top 3 running songs if you do want music while running?
Well, actually, I do music now. Not when I race, but I do music when I train. And if there's no songs specifically, Kenny Chesney, Old Dominion, Huge Groove, who's a jazz artist, and there's one other one, the Rolling Stones. And so I'm mixing around in there, and then every night I'll throw in some others, some old stuff beyond that. But those are my musics. And right now I'm really hooked on Kenny Chesney and Old Dominion.
Steve, after the interview, you tell me what song you want for the intro for our interview, and I'll put it in there for you.
Okay, you got a deal. Yeah.
All right. Favorite Akron running spot? Do you have one particular?
That's a great question because there's so many. But if I had to pick one, I would say, Oak Hill. There's just something about it. Valley Picnic, coming up, and it's beautiful to me. Beautiful, and you get the lake, you get the trees, you get, and the thing is at points, particularly when you take off from Valley Picnic, go up, honestly, you think you're out in the redwoods.
And we're here in Northeast Ohio.
That's exactly right.
Yes. So do you have a favorite race?
I think my favorite race now is, and I hate the race, and that's the Falmouth Road Race. Now I say I hate it because it's always hot, it's legendary. There's so many the biggest names in running are always there, but there's always hot or there's something, and I never do well there. But I'm so glad I ran. It's my wife's Boston Marathon. She just loves that race. So I love to hate it, and I'm really glad I've had a chance to participate and run in it.
And what is it called again?
The Falmouth Road Race. It's historic. Tommy Leonard was the original race director. There are a couple of guys, Rich Sherman, a couple of guys. All the great names have run there.
Where's that at?
That's in Falmouth, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Meb Kaplesky's run. In fact, you'll like this one. So before Meb won any of his races, he was actually there training, and there's actually a bike trail that we go down to the race, start of the race. So we're actually going down there, and there was Meb and a couple other guys running. And so they came flying by. So all of a sudden, they just doing the shakeout run. So they're coming back, and we're headed to the starting line. So I started running. I said, okay, you guys, I'm going to take you to school today. Of course, I'm just kind of hammering around on stuff. And I'm running along, and I'm actually hanging with them for maybe 100 yards or something. I said, okay, I think you guys have had enough. And of course, they started laughing. And then they started giving me high fives, and Meb gives me a high five. I didn't know who he was at the time, that type of thing. And then a little bit later, I see who the winner of the race is, one of the top raters. I'm thinking to myself, you're really smart, Steve. Boy, that really paid off. Plus, I was winded for the race, but that was a warm day too. But it's a great race.
What's the distance on that?
It's exactly 7 miles.
Okay.
And that's what I was talking about earlier. It starts and ends at a bar. So it starts in a bar in Woods Hole, the Woods Hole section of Falmouth, and then it finishes in Falmouth Heights in another bar there.
What's the date on that?
That's in August every year. So it's like I think it's the third Sunday in August.
Oh, okay.
And they've been 50 years now. It's and they do a great job raising charity runs. They do a great job, and they have. So it's a 7-mile race. They have like 15,000.
I may have to put that on my bucket list for retirement.
Oh, do it. Oh, and believe me, you'll thank me. You really will. You'll say, hey, Steve, I finally ran Falmouth. It's great. They're already closed out. They had registration now, and so they're closed out now. But next year, put it on the list.
I will, definitely. Longest distance.
Well, I think marathon, and actually this past year I did the Chicago Marathon. Real quick story here. So I'm running Chicago, and my wave, and again I'm in the last 2 waves, so my wave's not supposed to start at 8:30, which is fine. Well, 8:30 comes and goes. So now all of a sudden it's like 5 minutes to 9. And so now he goes, okay, come on, roll, corral M and N, come on up here, So we're coming up, and I'm thinking to myself, this isn't a good thing.
Yeah.
Because when we take off, literally 15, 20 minutes behind us are going to be the leaders coming in. So I'm thinking, that what possibly could go wrong? And I was actually in pretty good shape. And I got through, when you get by the United Center, and all of a sudden I hear these vehicles, and it's the SAG wagon. And it's the lead vehicle, and then there's a police car, then there's a fire truck, and then there's like a couple of dump trucks, and they're picking up the timing mats, they're picking up the mile markers. There's still thousands of us out there running.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking to myself, so now, Mr. Good Vibrations, all of a sudden I get angry, and like internally I get angry. So finally I go over to the fire guy and I go, you know what? I said, this isn't fair. He says, I'm sorry. He goes, I said, I know you started late. He goes, that's not your fault. He goes, but the city of Chicago says this is the time we have to go through and get the stuff. And I kind of understood it, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to fix this. So I picked up my pace. I get up in front of so that in the roads there, they narrowed down to like 3 lanes wide. And so now there's still thousands of runners out there. So all of a sudden I get out in front of all of a sudden I stop and I just start walking. Where's he going to go? He can't get around me. There's runners around me and stuff. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to take off. And so as I take off, I start moving pretty good. And I'm thinking, I got the system here. I got this thing figured out. And all of a sudden I go out and I go to take a left turn. And you take a left turn on old Route 66, which is about 6 lanes wide. I look at that and I go, well, I guess that plan just went out the window.
Yeah.
So they just drive around me.
Right.
And then, but having said that, all of a sudden I improved my attitude. I thought, you know what? There's thousands of us out there not taking down the finish line. And I improved my attitude. And so for the last 5 miles, I actually had a blast. And I passed this, Black Girls Run. They were they were so fantastic. Nicaida, is great, and she's turned into a wonderful runner, Nicaida Griffey. And the thing is that all of a sudden I started dancing with them. I was having a great time. So I went, and then, but the thing that was really a treat was the Special Olympics was the final stop, and those children and the volunteers had stayed out there for all of us. And I thought to myself, it was just so emotional, and I can't even now tear up thinking about it. And I'm thinking this was really worthwhile. And then came in and finished a robust 7 hours, and it was just great. And then that night, Nicaida and I went to Buddy Guy's Legends Club in Chicago, and the man himself, Buddy Guy, was there that night. So it was a
Sounds like the end to a perfect day.
It was a perfect day.
I just saw Nicaida this morning. We did trail running.
She's great.
Yes, she is. I saw her 2 days ago too at the Medina Half Marathon.
She did. Boy, she did a job over there, didn't she?
Yes, she
great.
did.
Joe too. Yep.
Yes.
So, anything else?
Yep. So, do you have any favorite sports movie? Something that gets you pumped?
Yeah, I really do. I think that Running the Sahara.
I gotta check that out, Steve.
Running the Sahara, and then there's also, and I think that Spur of the Marathon series, where Spur of the Marathon, the Chicago 2005, and then the Rome, Spur of the Marathon Rome, and then the Boston Marathon, that the documentary they did with, that's part of that series. And, so I think, if you see those, you're right in on it. You're seeing, and the other one is, there's a movie, and the name escapes me at the moment, but it's about, and I'll get the name to you, but it's about runners in LA that this one judge.
I know it. I've seen it. It's called, now I can't
Now
remember.
I-
Yeah, I know.
But he's a judge, and he goes out in the streets, and there's a mission. Actually, it's on Skid Row Marathon.
Skid Row Marathon.
Yeah,
And boy,
excellent.
folks, if,
Yeah.
go, I think it's on Amazon. Go watch Skid Row Marathon. What a movie. What an absolute, and it's real.
It absolutely is. And then he trains them, and then they go to Rome, right? That's the
They go
goal
to
of it.
Rome, and you see people, recovering drug addicts.
Yep.
And he actually gets a murderer, a guy, he repents, and he gets, it's a great story.
Awesome story. The final question for the rapid fire roundup, and this is one of the most serious questions of the interview. Your favorite lawn and garden tool?
I
You have one, Steve?
Yeah, I do. My wife, she loves gardening. I mean, she is. You talk about a passion for flowers and nature and stuff. Arisa. I mean, that's Mary. She's pretty terrific, and so she's my favorite runner too. So.
Well, good, because I got something. If she loves landscaping or anything to do with lawns, I got something here for her. This is a Wrangler goodie bag we give to all of our guests, Steve.
Okay.
So go ahead and see what's in there, buddy.
Okay, let's take a look here. Honey, this is gonna be yours. Let's see. So we have
It's an official lawn Wrangler. We gave you a good one
that's
too.
the
It's a tech one. And,
Perfect.
yeah, and they run big, Steve. They run, it's a medium, but it fits more like a large.
I'll endeavor to get it, fit into it. So let's see, what else we got here? We got the magnet, which will go, and we have some, actually, Mary's gonna love these. This is great.
See?
Now, I have something for you guys.
Oh, you do?
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Let me reach back here. Reese, as you know, and Larry, I love the Grateful Dead. I love the music. I love the good vibes. And so I have for you a Grateful Runner blanket. And I have the
so
same for you, Larry.
Thank you,
And
Steve.
also, Larry, for
This
you,
is awesome.
I have a Steve Hyler and Friends CD. There's 16 songs on here, 14 of them are mine.
And Steve, that's you on the cover of the
that-
CD.
Yeah, that's me on the cover, and then on the inside, and you can't see it open up, but there's that's what I looked like about 30 years ago. And then inside is a picture of my.
I love that picture.
There's a picture of my brother, and actually Rick Rebrin, the guy that he's a heck of a guitarist, and so there's my brother Jerry there, and then me singing, and anyway. Bottom line is, buddy, this is yours.
Thank you.
Hope
How long have you been in the music business, Steve?
Well, I was in it for about 4 years, just as a side. We'd bring Livingston Taylor to town to raise money for Battered Women's Shelter and for Haven of Rest and for some other charities. And then and so I would open for him. And on the CD, there's Mark Lee Shannon, who's just a terrific musician and used to play with Michael Stanley. He's on there. And then there's a group called Side that was pretty popular here in the early 2000s, and they all play on there. They actually recorded that at their studios, Sean Hackle, and my brother plays in there, and a dear friend of mine that I work with, Jennifer Civet, great voice, and her son now is in music down in Nashville, but it's a lot of fun. Some of the songs in there are good, some of them, think of this as, I'm a songwriter who was singing his songs, and I did quite a few performances for about 4 or 5 years, and then I just said, okay, that's it. We've done. That's enough.
That's awesome. It's so, to follow your path, and that's the thing in life, I mean, I run into so many kids I just want to make money, Mr. Neal. I'm like, I teach kids, and what do you want to do when you get out of here? Well, whatever it is, I want to make money. That's not what makes you happy. Like, you got to find a passion. And even if it doesn't make money, have something that when you go home at night, that you're passionate about, whether it's making music, running, whatever. But, to go through life and just not have a passion, to me, is the biggest waste.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. Mark Twain said, your vocation should be a vacation, but my favorite rock star is John Lennon. And John Lennon said that, told a story that when he was in school, that his teacher said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so people are saying, well, I want to be a plumber, I want to be, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're happy with what you're doing, and you devote yourself to your craft. And I've got friends that all it's great. They're my friends, and so I don't care what they do. If they're happy, I'm happy. But John Lennon said, the teacher looked and said, John, what do you want to be? He goes, I want to be happy. She said, his teacher said, you don't understand the lesson. He says, no, you don't understand life. Mm-hmm. And if there's a good way to fit this, the best thing about running is that it makes all three of us and everybody who's watching this, running makes us happy. And that's why we should continue to do it. If nothing else, and then what bad things can come out of being happy?
Yep. In the words of Keith Johnson, activate happy.
There you go, our boy Keith.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.
Hey,
It's a great
pleasure's mine.
interview, man.
Thanks.
I'm glad I got
Thank
you
you
on
so
here.
much.
And
Thanks,
thank
buddy.
you for the blanket.